bear with, guys. Pain is actually defined as an unpleasant subjective experience with a sensory and an emotional component. Psychological health comorbidities in humans, especially anxiety, depression, and anger, are highly prevalent in people with chronic pain. What do you think about that then?
I think it is a great description, and that is the definition, though, that made a lot of people say way back in the early days, right, that animals didn't feel pain because they didn't have an emotional response. So people actually use that definition against our patients, saying, well, they don't have emotions, so they can't have an emotional response. And now you and I and probably everybody listening to us knows that that's so wrong. And I think also to look at what we mean by emotions, because a lot of people say, you know, my dog is happy when I have a birthday party for him, and we know that they look happy, they jump up and down and run around, but we can't really measure happiness, right? That's an anthropomorphism. But there are emotions like pain and fear. Those are also emotions, and we can measure those and see the results of those, like learned behavior from something that's painful. And so finally, I think we're coming around to saying, and I do think my dog is happy with the birthday party, but again, can't prove that one. But yeah, it's interesting that we've come now, finally, a long way. And now we're not using that definition against animals, but we're saying, no, wait a minute, they do feel pain and there are emotions associated with it.
Yeah. So I did a little bit of digging today, and it's actually really hard to kind of like clarify what we mean by emotion. And it really overlaps with pain, because pain is a subjective experience that we express. So does pain itself start falling into an emotion? And I read this, it's hardcore. Most perspectives hold that an emotional experience are from the outcomes of interactions between the somatovisceral patterns mediated by the functionality of the peripheral nervous system, as well as our cognitive processing, e.g. memory and attention, as well as our metacognitive attributions, appraisals and evaluations, mediated by our central nervous system. And I was getting in this going, hell, man, this is heavy stuff. But can you kind of like, how can we summarize? Because people throw the word emotion around all the time, but what are we trying to infer about a negative emotional experience so that when we talk about pain, people know what we're kind of talking about?
Sure, I'll go first, but I want your input too, because you're right, that thing is so complex, but it's good to see that it's that complex. So this isn't an easy thing, and there's no way to separate out pain and behavior in most of our patients, and then pain, behavior, and emotion. It's so intertwined. And there's some really cool studies in human medicine that show that the parts of the brain, so they're functional imaging studies, parts of the brain that light up in a patient that they created an anxiety situation are the same parts of the brain that light up for pain. So there's this crossover. Yeah. And so I don't know how to divide it out. Yeah. It just all goes together, and we say, okay, pain causes behavioral changes. And then those behavioral manifestation, we see the behavior that was the manifestation of the pain. But the fear, anxiety fits in there too. I don't know how to divide it up. I don't know how to simplify it.
Because to me, when I was trying to distill it down in a very logical way to talk about it, right, let's first define what an emotion is, and then let's define what pain is. Yeah. And then we'll be able to just show you that pain drives an emotional change. And I was like, oh, this is messy. And exactly the same. It's because there is so much happening in these same brain regions. As you said, the areas that control your fear, your depression, your anxiety are the same areas that are lighting up when you are in pain. And so it makes sense that there's a real merge